Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here today. Today we're starting off in the garden, but we're actually going to be in the house today because in this video, I cannot wait to give you my 1-year review of having a freeze dryer. But first, we're actually going to harvest some herbs that we're going to put in the freeze dryer, and then we're going to go in the house. I'm going to show you how I do it and then talk through how the first year has been with me having a freeze dryer. So y'all, I'm out in the tunnel and it's hot out here. It is almost time to put the shade cloth on. Now, this is a moment in time, meaning we have, I would say, partly sunshine right now. But y'all, when I tell you the rain is coming with a vengeance, it is coming with a vengeance. Every single day for the past 6 days, like just deluges of rain, and it's in the forecast for the next 7 to 8 days. But what happens is every day at some point the rain kind of abates for just a little while, and then the sun will come out for like 2 to 3 hours, and then the rain comes back. So like we're in a good spot to where if I step outside the tunnel, it feels really good, and it's partly sunshine. In the tunnel it is 101 in here, so we're gonna move like really quickly. It's definitely time to put the shade cloth on, just because now over the next I think by the end of this week, the temperatures are supposed to rise to 80. It's been in the 70s, like 69 to like, I would say 75 on average. So it hasn't been really hot. And then of course, without the sun, it doesn't feel hot at all. But it's supposed to be, y'all, I gotta move. Okay, I see more ants on the ground. So I'm out here in not my regular garden clothes. I got on garden boots, but I felt like I felt something. I've already got bit in the first 5 minutes I've been out here. I was looking at one of the beds out there at my onions, and I was like putting my hand around to see if it was bulbing, and I didn't know there was ants in that bed. So it already got me like right there within seconds. I tell you y'all, they love me. But we're not out here to deal with the ants. I mean, I'm gonna deal with them, but not right now. I'm coming out here to harvest some sage and some lemon thyme to put in the freeze dryer. But oh, back to the weather. So, well, first of all, if you're new here, thank you so much for coming by. I'm not always a scatterbrain. Well, just go along for the ride, okay? Usually I am a little bit more orderly and all that, but that's okay. If you're new, I appreciate you stopping by. I'm in Tennessee in Zone 7B, and if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. But that's the update on the weather. The rain is coming with a vengeance. It is rain every day. We cannot make any momentum outside because of the rain. And then also I am starting to get concerned because, you know, too much of any good thing is not good for the plants. So when you don't have enough rain, that's a problem, but you can have too much rain and that's a problem. So I was also coming out here to like just check things. Right now things seem okay. I do have some plants that you can tell are being stressed by the rain. And I'll talk about that in a future video of what that looks like and all of that. But the fact that it's in the forecast for the next 8 days, that's the most concerning part. We have turned off the drip outside because we can just get this free water in the rain. Obviously, we still have drip in the tunnel. But let's go ahead and harvest some herbs, and we're gonna go in the house and talk about the freeze dryer. Okay guys, we are back in the house, in the kitchen, and so I want to talk about the freeze dryer. And so I've had my freeze dryer now for about 15 months. We got it last February, but in February of 2024, is that right? Yeah, February 2024. But I started the process of getting the freeze dryer back in November 2022. Let me tell you what happened. So if you don't know, first let me tell you what kind of freeze dryer I have. I have a Harvest Right medium freeze dryer, and so they come in small, medium, large, and then they have a commercial one that is extra large. So we got the medium. If I had it to do all over again, I would get the large. That's what I would do. But a medium will serve you for what you need. So a medium now comes with 5 trays. When we first got our freeze dryer, it came with 4 trays, but then they did a retrofit and added it to where you could add a 5th tray, and then they sent us the 5th one. And I think the large now probably comes with 6. But either way, we got a Harvest Right freeze dryer, and right now they are having a sale for the month of May. I think it's up to like $600 or $700 off. I do have an affiliate code link in my description. If you want to get one, I would love for you to click my link. But in terms of the freeze dryer, The process started in November 2022. Now, when it comes to freeze jars, they are a costly investment. So you gotta really want one, and you gotta really use it in order to recoup your money. But a lot of us may not wanna spend $3,500 off the top for a freeze jar. So what I did not know, but what I found out, is that they actually have a layaway program. If you know what layaway is, then you're my age, right? If you don't know what layaway is, then you may be younger than me. But anyway, they have a layaway program, so I was actually able to put my freeze jar on layaway. And so the way the plan works, I think at the time you had to put down a $250 deposit. If it wasn't $250, it was $500, but I'm almost positive it was $250. And basically you pay on the freeze jar whenever you want, and you can take however long you want. It's not like a traditional layaway back in the day where you have to make a certain a minimum amount payment every single month. It's not like set up like that at all. It is literally at your leisure, at your discretion. So there will be times that I will send in a $200. There'll be times I would send in $500. But I started the process in November 2022, and I paid it off in January of 2024. So it took, what is that, like almost 13, 14 months for me to pay it off. Now, I was really trying to get it for the summer of 2023. But as the summer approached, I had maybe like $1,100 balance, and I didn't want to allocate the money for that. So then since I wasn't going to make the summer, I just slow walked it after that to make sure that I had it for the summer of 2024. And so again, that's literally what I would do when I would have extra money, make extra money in my business, make extra money on the farm. I would just send in a payment. I mean, not send in mail, do it online. And that was it. It was just that simple. Just that simple to get it done. And so if you didn't know that, a Harvest Right freeze dryer may be in more reach than what you think it is, because if you're thinking, man, I don't have $3,500 plus to send in to buy a freeze dryer, that is an option to get it. So I highly recommend, if you want one, that is an option if you don't want to spend the money up front. So let me just give you the spoiler alert. I want to talk about the freeze dryer, and do I feel like I made a good investment? The answer is 100%. Absolutely, yes. I would do it all over again. And like I said, I would probably get the large if I had it to do all over again. But absolutely, it has been well worth the investment. So I wanted to go through today and talk about some of the tools and the accessories with the freeze dryer. Also, the things that I like about it, the things that I don't like about it, and the things that are our favorites that we have done since we've had the freeze dryer. So I'm going to just kind of give you an overall review of the freeze dryer. So I would absolutely do the freeze dryer again, 100%. So in this video, I want to kind of give you an overall review of how the freeze dryer has been for us, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and what are our top things that we have actually freeze dried, and really how simple it is just to get something done. So the first thing we're going to do is going to go ahead and get our herbs prepped and ready for the freeze dryer. And that's what actually we're going to be freeze drying today. Our 5 trays of herbs. So let's go ahead and get that going, and then I'll come back and we'll chat about the freeze dryer. So I'm getting the things that we actually harvested from the garden just a few minutes ago. We harvested some lemon, thyme, and some sage. So I have my colander here. I'm going to rinse those off thoroughly and dry them and get ready for the freeze dryer. So in this video, we're going to freeze dry herbs. We're also going to talk through some other things that I have freeze dried. I'm going to give you my favorites and the things that maybe I didn't like. But herbs by far is one of my favorite things to freeze dry. You retain the color, you retain the nutrients, and you also retain the flavor much more than you do when you dehydrate or you hang them to air dry. There is just a considerable difference between the flavor and the taste of a freeze dried herb versus a dehydrated one. So lemon thyme, again, you know, is one of my favorite herbs. If you do not have lemon thyme growing in your garden, then certainly go to one of your local nurseries and see if they still have some and put it in your garden or in your GREENSTALK. It has the most amazing smell and flavor. And so I think you'll really enjoy having it in your kitchen. The next thing that I'm doing now is the sage, and I'm taking the time to go ahead and destem the sage
So that way we can have more room on the actual freeze dryer tray, and don't have to use the stems. Although the stems will be fine ground up, but I just prefer to have the leaf, and it just saves space on the freeze dryer tray. So I just go ahead and de-stem it ahead of time. As you saw in my video in the garden, my sage has flowered. This is the first time my sage has flowered. It puts on the most beautiful purple flowers, but once it flowers, you can still eat the sage. It's still edible and should be just fine. I don't primarily ever use sage in a fresh state. So let me know if you guys ever do that. I always have either, before I had a freeze dryer, I bought it dried, and I find that the sage that I have grown in my garden, I always bring it in and freeze dried. Before that, I would dehydrate it. So, and I don't know that I've ever seen people use sage fresh, but I'm assuming you can. Just in what application? I'm just always use like a sage in the dried powder form. Obviously, you can use sage for cornbread dressing in the Thanksgiving holiday season. It has that unique flavor that we know and love in cornbread dressing, but also I use it primarily when I make my own Italian seasoning. It's a primary ingredient in that. Other than that, there's very few times that I just use sage just by itself. So again, I'm always looking for tips and tricks and suggestions on how you guys are using your herbs as well. So let me know, drop it in the comments. One, do you use fresh sage? And then two, what else do you use your sage in besides what I already mentioned? So we're gonna get this all rinsed up, ready to go. I have a towel here to dry it, to just kind of pat it dry. And then we're gonna go back and talk about the freeze dryer and load it up. Okay, so let's first talk about the usage of the freeze dryer and how often I use it. Now, in the summertime, I use my freeze dryer every single day. Every single day. Because we had that much produce coming in. And so I would say from about May until October, the freeze dryer was in use, if not every day, definitely every single week. After that, it does start to slow down. At least it did for us. It started to slow down. You can see I already have some herbs prepped there that I'll kind of talk through. But it definitely did slow down. But in the summertime, every single day, every single week, for at least from May until October. For sure, 100% without fail. It was kind of hard to keep up. And so one of the things when you are growing a large garden, if you're not just growing enough to eat fresh and you have leftover, you have to think about a way to preserve it. Now there's many other ways to preserve outside of freeze drying, but freeze drying is an option. And out of all the options when it comes to food preservation, it is the one that has the longest shelf life. It can last 20 to 25 years. And you're going to retain the most nutrients when it comes to freeze drying. There are so many other ways to preserve food, whether it's canning, freezing, dehydrating, but out of all of those, you're going to get the most shelf life with freeze drying, and you're going to get the most nutrients with freeze drying. So out of all the methods, it is definitely the top tier when it comes to food preservation. So in terms of use, did we use it? Yes, we did. Now in the winter time, I did not use it as much. And that was just because the stuff that we were getting out of the garden, we were selling a ton of it and we were eating a ton of it fresh, and or I was freezing it. So things like in the wintertime where we have collards and bok choy and kale and things like that, I didn't want to freeze dry that stuff because like I said, we were eating it fresh or we were actually freezing it. And those were the things that I didn't want to freeze dry. Versus in the summer, we're freeze drying lots of herbs, peppers, tomatoes, squash, zucchini, like all the things. And so I definitely noticed that I used it less when it came time to the winter. Now, one thing that I haven't done in this whole year is that I have never freeze dried like a meal. Like let's say we have leftovers and I like Alfredo or something, I put it. I have not done that because we very rarely have leftovers. We just very rarely have leftovers. So it hasn't even been enough to do a whole lot of leftovers. And if I do have leftovers, let's say I make a big pot of chili or spaghetti or something like that, usually we will eat it and then I will freeze it because we're in that season of eating that thing, and then we'll have it like the next week. So like for chili, I wouldn't freeze dry because we're probably gonna have like the next week, because when you're in the chili season, you're in the chili season. So I have not done that yet, but everything else we have tried. We have done tons of herbs, we've done tons of fruits, we have done tons of vegetables.
And so it's very, very versatile. And so today we're going to be doing herbs. And one of the things I want to show you is that you can see that I have 3 trays of herbs here. So this is parsley. This is, well, just look at this. Do you see that? That's dill. And then this is lemon balm and rosemary. And so these things I actually harvested from my GREENSTALK last week. You might have saw that video where I did a whole bunch of harvesting. This came just from my GREENSTALK, these 3 trays. And then there was more left over because I still have a whole nother bag of parsley from that. And so this came from the GREENSTALK. And what I did was I went ahead and prepped it and put it on the freeze dry trays and covered it. And it's been in my freezer because I didn't have all of my trays full. Now you can run your freeze dry with just 1, 2, or 3 trays, but to me it's more cost and energy efficient to just run it when it's full. So I typically will not run my freeze dryer unless I have 4 or 5 trays. I haven't ran it with just 4 trays, but nothing less than 4 am I usually running a freeze dryer unless I just absolutely need it, and I haven't absolutely needed it. So I had these kind of in waves. So I want to kind of go through and show you what the trays look like in some of the accessories. So for example, so this is what the standard size tray looks like. And you can go on the website and it'll give you the dimensions. Like I said, if you want to get a freeze dryer, they have them on sale this month. You can use my code as well. And it's a great time to get one while it's on sale. But they have the dimensions on there. Now, when you get the freeze dryer, it comes by freight. So it's going to come, like I said, by freight, and it's a pretty big old box. But you get the freeze dryer, you get the trays, you get an assortment, not an assortment, you get a standard size or starting pack of Mylar bags, you get oxygen absorbers, you get the oil that goes into it. We do not have an oil-free one. That is a bit more expensive. And I was a little intimidated, like, okay, is it gonna be hard to change the oil? It's not hard at all. You have to change the oil in your freeze dryer every 25 uses, and the freeze dryer will tell you. Like, you don't have to like keep up with it. It'll tell you time to change your oil. And so we have had to change it. I think we're on the 3rd time that we've had to change it. So that tells you we've used it at least 75 times in the past year. 52 weeks in a year, that tells you we've been using it a whole lot. But that's what you get in the standard freeze dryer. This right here is an extra accessory, which is a silicone mat. I highly do recommend that. Now, some people say you can use parchment paper, you can use a different type of brand of silicone mat, but again, you want to get something that fits. You can probably buy you a silicone mat roll and cut it to shape. You can do all that. What I recommend is you just get the silicone mats from Harvest Right. I tried to get the cheaper version from Amazon, and I did not like those. They just, I don't know, it didn't work. I don't even remember why, but it didn't work. And so I went back and just went ahead and bought the Harvest Right freeze dry silicone mats, and I like those a lot better. And with parchment paper, I wasn't trying to cut parchment paper to this size every single time I had to freeze dry. You know, things come down to time or money. Either you're gonna spend your time, you're gonna spend your money. I'm always, not always, more than likely when it comes to me, if I have the money, I'm gonna spend money versus my time. That's just my own personal preference. But when I don't have the money, your girl gonna be spending her time. That's what happens. But then also, I got these covers. So these covers again don't come with it, but I highly recommend them. They fit on it just like this, and you can stack these trays on top of each other in the freezer. This comes in handy because again, I put this in the freezer last week, and then I was able to put these in my freezer without anything getting on top of them and them still being safe and secure. And so those come in handy. I highly recommend getting a second set of trays because especially in the summertime when your stuff is coming in really, really fast and you already have something in the freeze dryer, if you have another set of trays, you can go ahead and get that stuff prepped and ready to go, covered, put in the freezer. And so that when those trays come out, you can automatically put those trays in. What happens is if you don't have another set of trays, you have to wait, get yourself out of the freeze dryer, get it all prepped, off, ready, sealed up, packaged, washed, and then redo the whole thing. So it's going to save you more time if you have a second set of trays. So I'm definitely going to be getting me a second set of trays this year for sure. So I definitely recommend these covers, and I definitely recommend these silicone mats, because if you're doing something that has like a sticky residue, you don't want it to stick to your tray. It's going to be much, much harder to clean. But with these silicone mats, it's so easy to clean. You just rinse and basically go. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So let's go ahead, and some of our deal got off. One of the things that I really like freeze drying are the herbs. The herbs, I tried dehydrating. Obviously you can dehydrate, you can hang dry them, you can do all those things, but the color and the flavor is better retained with freeze dry. It is the closest thing you can get to a fresh herb, 100% by far. So let's go ahead and load this up. This is our sage that we got washed and prepped and ready to go. Let's see if we can get it all on this tray. It may have to share with the lemon thyme. This lemon thyme smells so good, but no, we got a whole tray of lemon thyme too. Huh. That's okay. We're gonna see if we can make it work. Now, I had these in the freezer, and these of course have not been in the freezer, they're fresh. Ideally, you would like for them all to be the same state, either unfrozen or frozen. But ideal is always sometimes not possible, but that's okay. It's still gonna freeze dry. It's just gonna take a little bit longer than it would if they were all starting off frozen, but that's okay. We don't have nothing but time. It's not like we're gonna be sitting there just, you know, waiting for it to stop. So we're gonna load this up. Ideally, again, I think I'm gonna take some of the sage off and we'll just have it for the next time, because you want it to kind of be even with the lip and not over the lip, because the spacing is quite narrow, so to speak, meaning it's just going to push up against something else up at the top and not going to dry as efficiently if you have it too full, which is another reason why I like to de-stem, because it saves space as well, because you can have the stems, but I really just want the leaves. So we'll have some, looks like we'll have some sage left over, just a few pieces right there, which is fine. It can go in the refrigerator for the next batch. So we got the tray of sage ready. We have a whole tray of lemon thyme, and we have a whole tray of parsley, dill, and then rosemary and lemon balm. So we're doing herbs today, but like I said, some of the other things that we did in the summer that was a really big hit are squash and zucchini. So we made like squash and zucchini chips. You can lightly season them or salt them. Those were good. If you slice them really thin, you can just literally eat them as like a veggie snack. We have done tons of fruit. We've done bananas, we've done blueberries, we've done strawberries, peaches, pineapples, mangoes. Out of the fruit, my top favorite are pineapple and mango. I didn't really care for freeze-dried bananas. I think I would prefer those dehydrated. And so as you start to freeze dry and use different methods of food preservation, you'll figure out kind of what you like and what you don't like. Also, a top winner was freeze-dried apples. Like, that's probably my most favorite fruit, freeze-dried. Apples, for sure. The texture and the taste, I mean, it tastes like you are eating like literally a fresh apple picked off the vine in the orchard. It's so light, it's so good. It's like just the best snack are freeze-dried apple chips. So that's probably my number one. My number two is probably mango and pineapple for a tie. And then blueberries, I didn't eat them as freeze-dried. I kind of rehydrated them and used them in oatmeal. Strawberries were okay. It wasn't my favorite. It was a little bit too airy for me, but other people liked them. And then the vegetables, of course, we love that. Peppers, I have freeze-dried peppers, you know, in mason jars and in Mylar bags that I still have to use that I have in my long-term storage. Freeze-dried like cayenne peppers, we did those. I'm trying to think what else. Like, yeah, we've done so many things. I'm trying to think, is there anything that we didn't like? The bananas was probably the one that I just did not like, and I won't freeze dry bananas again. Like, we used all the ones that we had, and we put them in oatmeal and things like that. But it was something about it was a little airy, and it was more of a texture thing than a taste thing. It tasted just like a banana, but the texture to me was just not what I had in my mind. So therefore, I didn't like it. But it has been a fun thing. What I would love to know is, first of all, what questions do you have about a freeze dry? And then second thing, if you have a freeze dry, what's been some of your favorite things to freeze dry? Now, one of the things we have not done candy, because I'm not a big candy person, so that wouldn't really appeal to me at all. But we haven't done candy or those like ice cream things. I am interested and curious. This year, I want to do some freeze-dried flowers. I've heard that yarrow freezes really well. Calendula. I don't know, did I hear chamomile? But let me know if you've done any freeze-dried flowers, and let me know which flowers retain like their color and their beauty and all that good stuff. So I want to do some freeze-dried flowers. That's one that I haven't done, so that's on my list this year. Oh, freeze-dried okra, we did that. Love it. That's like a nice little snack. You can just like salt it. And so if you don't like okra because of the texture with the sliminess, try it freeze-dried, because you don't have the sliminess at all, but you still get the flavor and taste of okra. And again, y'all, when you go to like the Sprouts or those markets, like a Fresh Market, Sprouts, Whole Foods, things like that, and they have either freeze-dried or dehydrated fruits and vegetables, y'all, those things are high. Those things are high. It is expensive. I can just make my own. I can just pull the okra from my garden, slice it up, freeze-dry it, and it's a nice snack. And so you're eating the vegetable in a different state that maybe you couldn't eat it in its fresh state. So that's also good. Y'all could go on and on and on, but we have had such a fun time with the freeze dry. But I want to know from you guys, what are some of your favorite things to freeze dry so that we can try it definitely this year. The other thing I want to talk about is the location of our freeze dryer. Our freeze dryer is in our garage. And again, you can go on the website and get the dimensions to see if you would have a spot in your house to put it in. We did not have a spot, and so the garage was the best place for us. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that in the summertime, obviously it's hot because I'm in the South, and so things take longer. So in the summer, it can take, I think the longest we've had is like 22 hours for something to freeze dry, versus in the winter when it's really, really cold. The shortest time I've seen is like 13, 14 hours, and that's usually like an herb that's already frozen. So if I had to come up with a downside for the freeze dry, it takes a long time. But again, my counter to that is, it's not like you're sitting there watching it, right? So, but again, if you wanted man, I'm going on a trip tomorrow and I want freeze dried apples, you might want to get on it early in the morning to make sure that you have them for your trip tomorrow. So you have to, that may become a challenge, but for the most part, there's nothing ever that I need right then that I'm waiting on to be freeze dried. Now, in the summertime, when you have things backed up and you want to use your freeze dryer, every single day, now you may be frustrated because it's taking a long time and it may take the whole 24-hour cycle. So that is something to think about, especially if you have it in a garage or in a hot climate. I don't know what the difference would be having it in your house versus in a warm place like a garage in the summertime, like how many hours that would shave off, I don't know. But you're not gonna freeze dry anything in 3 or 4 hours. Like the process takes, a while because of the process. But once you put it in there and you press start, there's nothing you have to do. The freeze dryer does all the work, and it tells you at every stage what stage it is in. It is really like idiot proof, hands free. It's just that easy. There's nothing for you to worry about. Another question that I get asked is what effect does it have on your utility bill? Y'all haven't even noticed anything on my utility bill. I was gonna go back and look at our utility bill before we got the freeze dryer in the summer versus the freeze dryer now, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do all that, because if it's been any difference, it has not been anything noticeable. It's not pulling that much energy. And I think people think, oh my goodness, a freeze dryer that's pulling so much electricity is gonna make your bill go sky high. Our bill didn't go sky high. Like, I didn't notice any difference. It might have been $5, I don't know. But it wasn't anything like, oh, our bill is like $50 more than it normally is. Like, what is going on? It was never that. Like, it hadn't even been a blip on the screen. So that's how I know. I mean, I didn't do the hard numbers and research, but that's how I know it hadn't made a dent in it. And I have seen other people who have done like the research, like they've done all the calculations and all. I'm not doing all that. Y'all can go and look at that somewhere else. But I have watched other people, like 2 or 3 videos, and the 3 videos that I saw, they all came away with the same thing. It does not make that much of a difference in your utility bill. Like, it is like cents on the dollar. And so whatever increase you may have, you are getting it back in cost savings and long-term storage, longevity, and all of those things. So that's my 2 cents about it. But let me know if there's anything that I didn't answer in my review. We talked about where mine is. We talked about the location, utility bill, the things I like, the things that I don't like. There haven't been any herbs and stuff that I've done that I didn't like, because the herbs are going to come out in its state and it's going to be what it's going to be, and it's going to taste like it's supposed to taste. It's going to look like it's supposed to look. It retains its color. It retains its nutrient value. Like, herbs are by far number 1, fruit number 2, vegetables number 3. Like, all those things turn out great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything that I missed? Let me know. But I tried to hit all of the main things. I told you about the tools and stuff that I recommend that you get. So definitely, if you have questions, put them down below. Also, if you are into the market of getting a freeze dry, make sure that you hit the link in my code. And like I said, they're having a sell off. But let's go get these in the freeze dry, and we'll come back. Okay, y'all, so everything is loaded up in the freeze dryer. Like I said, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trays. This whole space used to be 4 trays, but they did like a retrofit, for lack of a better term, and you were able to get 5 trays in there. So here is the menu. It's telling me exactly what to do to load trays into the freeze dryer and to close the drain valve and press continue. So I am going to close it up. I'm gonna press continue, and then it tells you it's freezing. And so right here it tells you how long, 10 seconds. It'll tell you what the current temperature is, which is 53 degrees. This number 53 degrees will continue to go down until it gets to 0, and then past that, and then at every step it'll tell you what's happening. So if I had to guess, this is probably going to take maybe 15 hours or so it'll be ready by tomorrow. So y'all, we got our items in the freeze dryer. It'll be tomorrow before they're ready, which is fine. And then so once I get them out of the freeze dryer, for these I will put in Mylar bags, most of them. And then that way, because a lot of these are going to be for my Italian seasoning blend that I mixed. So I will try to show that on camera, but I'll put them in Mylar bags for now, so they'll be fresh and ready to go. And then we'll just go from there. And then we're just getting started. Like, that's just like, I would say even like the spring harvest of the herbs, like just what's there at the beginning of May. When the summer starts rolling in, we're gonna have basil and all that stuff, and plus these will again continue to multiply. We'll just keep doing it, but that way you can see just how easy it is. And this is my year experience of having a freeze dryer. I always like to use a product before I tell you about it. I've used it for a year, so this is my true authentic review after having it a year and doing multiple things with the freeze dryer. I highly recommend that if you're in the market for one, it is definitely a good investment. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Remember, gardening is a journey. Let's grow together. I'll see you next time, friend.